Welcome, everyone, to the 2025 MLB Draft Lottery. Coming to you from Orlando, Florida. We are live, a major day in Major League Baseball. We're going to find out who's going to get the #1 overall pick in the upcoming MLB Draft. We're talking future faces of an organization decided in order tonight. We're in this gorgeous room in the hotel. You see representatives of 15 Major League teams on standby. It's Greg Amsinger with our resident GM, Rick Kahn, formerly of the Chicago White Sox. He's been through this draft lottery process before. For years, Rick, if you had the worst record in baseball, you knew you would get the #1 pick. Now, because of the lottery, we can expect the unexpected, can't we?
Yeah, it truly has become expect the unexpected on this day. You know, a lot of scouts compare the draft to Christmas morning. What happens today impacts the size of those gifts sometimes. You've seen in recent years, just last year, the Seattle Mariners moved from 15 all the way up to #3, wound up taking Cade Anderson out of LSU, one of the premier college arms in the draft, adding to that system. The Washington Nationals jumped from 4 to #1 overall, which magnified the size of their bonus pool, which they're able to have a ripple effect throughout the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round of last year.
Odds are everything. If you're at home on your couch and you're wondering your favorite team, what are their odds of getting the #1 overall pick? You should be excited if you're in the south side of Chicago. The White Sox have the best odds at over 27%. Then it's the Twins, the Pirates at almost 17%, the O's over 9%, the Athletics at 6.6%. Now, your eyes might be gravitating to the bottom right portion of your screen. There are 3 teams that did not make the postseason, yet are ineligible for the #1 overall pick. Rick, explain why.
Yeah, those 3 teams, the Colorado Rockies, Washington Nationals, and Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. The rules preclude you team from picking 3 years in a row inside the lottery. So Colorado picking in #4 and #3 the last 2 years is ineligible for this year's lottery. Washington and Anaheim, as revenue-sharing payor clubs, meaning they contribute to revenue sharing, are not allowed to pick in the lottery 2 years in a row and therefore are ineligible for 2026.
There are so many details that we're trying to get you to understand. There's one more important note. This is a unique lottery situation for one specific team, and that's the New York Mets, right?
That is correct. The New York Mets were a club that was over the second luxury tax threshold last year, and as a result, their pick, if it's not in the top 6, is subject to fall 10 in this year's draft. As a result, the Mets could leave here tonight with the #1 pick overall or fall all the way to 27.
Again, it's a lot, but it's very important to follow along. Once again, there were 18 teams that did not make the postseason, but only 15 are eligible for the #1 overall pick in the draft. Those 15 teams are represented tonight. Let's meet those representatives. For the Houston Astros, it's their manager. Yeah, Joe Espada is here. He's been the skipper since 2024. We have another manager with us tonight representing the Kansas City Royals. Matt Quatraro has done terrific work there, led them to the playoffs in 2015. The Rangers have Elvis Andrus here tonight. He's the all-time leader in stolen bases in their organization, broke into the big leagues at the age of 20. The Marlins, their representative is their longtime catcher, Charles Johnson. Spent 7 of his 12 big league seasons with the Fish, a 2-time All-Star, 4-time Gold Glover. Representing the Tampa Bay Rays, Brett Phillips. We all remember that walk-off hit against Kenley Jansen in Game 4 of the 2020 Fall Classic. We welcome Brett here tonight. The Athletics have Joe Rudi as their representative. He spent 11 of his 16 seasons with the A's, a 3-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glover. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's their area supervisor, John Karanka. He spent 4 seasons in the big leagues with the Cubs, the Rangers, and the Marlins. Representing the Chicago White Sox, former #1 overall pick back in 1977, Hall of Famer Harold Baines. For the Minnesota Twins, one of the best changeups we've ever seen. A lefty who spent 8 seasons of his 12 with the Twins, 2-time Cy Young Award winner Johan Santana. For the Baltimore Orioles, it's Mike Devereaux. He spent 7 of his 12 seasons with the O's. He was the NLCS MVP with the Atlanta Braves in 1995. Representing the Atlanta Braves, their longtime manager, Brian Snitker, is here. He led the Braves to the 2021 World Series title. Representing the St. Louis Cardinals, longtime center fielder, Ray Lankford. He spent 13 of his 14 seasons in the Bigs with the Birds, had a terrific career. Representing the Arizona Diamondbacks, third baseman Jake Lamb. 7 of his 10 seasons were with Arizona. He was an all-star in 2017 when he hit 30 homers. Representing the San Francisco Giants, it's Randy Wynn. He played 5 of his 13 seasons with the Giants. He hit .290 in over 660 games in San Fran. And representing the New York Mets, he played 7 of his 20 seasons with the club, 435 career home runs. The great Carlos Beltran is here tonight. Well, it's not every day when you do the draft lottery, you get to talk to a guy that was taken number 1 overall. When you hear the word draft, Harold Baines, Hall of Famer, what memory comes to mind for you?
It takes me back to 48 years ago when I got drafted. I didn't have an agent. I got a call the night before. The White Sox said possibly they would take me tomorrow. So they asked me did I have a representative. I said no. So we went in the Yellow Pages and looked up a local lawyer, and I got a call the next day. So that was my representative.
Wow, what a story. No agent. How times have changed. Harold, thank you so much for being here tonight. If I get a chance to catch up with Brian Snitker, I have to take the opportunity. Snit, good to see you, man. You spent your entire baseball life with one organization, an organization that was built on young talent. How important is this night for your club, the Atlanta Braves?
I think it's very important. I think we see the impact that these young guys in this draft are making, how quick they can get to the major leagues. And I think we all know if we've been around baseball, that's the drafting player development. It's the heart and soul of what we do in this sport.
We are about to get it going. The MLB Draft Lottery is just moments away. When we come back, we have a major announcement from MLB Network and USA Baseball. Details when I come back live on MLB Network.
The MLB Draft Lottery is presented by Nike.
And welcome back to the 2025 MLB Draft Lottery presented by Nike. Earlier today, MLB Manager of Baseball Operations Jack Clark was on hand to individually select the ping pong balls for the final draft order. And Sean Panson, U.S. private leader from PricewaterhouseCoopers, walked the envelopes of each team to the podium as we get ready to reveal the 2026 Draft Lottery order. And joining me now, the president of baseball operations for the San Francisco Giants, Buster Posey. Buster, your team has a 1% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. This is the fun part of having a draft lottery, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, I think ideally, you're hoping you're not in the draft lottery for playing well during the season. But no, it adds some excitement around it for sure, and see how it shakes out.
And obviously, you guys are looking for upward mobility. You want to move up in the draft order, so it could be a big night for you guys. Because you know as well as anyone, as a former first-round pick, the disparity between a 15th overall pick and a number 5 pick, it's a big deal.
It is, yeah. I mean, I think obviously the higher you pick in the draft, the better crop of players you're picking from. But at the same time, we've seen over the years that you can get great players from different parts of the draft. So it's our job as a scouting department, to do our homework and make sure we get it right.
I'm so happy to have you here for a couple of reasons. Obviously, 2008 was a special year for you. You won the Golden Spikes Award, which goes to the best amateur player in the country in baseball, and that has great history. We are excited here at MLB Network to join forces with this award, the Golden Spikes Award, and we are going to televise the 48th edition of the Golden Spikes Award next year. So this is a big deal for the network. We're going to provide coverage throughout the amateur baseball season. When you look back at what that award meant to you in 2008, what comes to mind?
Well, I mean, where my brain goes to start with is growing up in South Georgia. Always kept my eye on FSU, and J.D. Drew came through and won the award before me, and so I kind of had well, it'd be great to play baseball at FSU one day, and never imagined that I would have actually won the award, but it's such a cool honor. I mean, you play with so many different kids growing up, and you see the amount of competition just continue to get better and better, and then to be honored with an award like that as a college baseball player, it's our Heisman.
And we're excited to carry that award presentation live on MLB Network next year. Buster Posey, best of luck tonight, okay?
Thanks a lot.
All right, it's time to make my way up to the podium because we're getting closer and closer to beginning the MLB Draft Lottery. Once again, The odds, very important, very important. The Chicago White Sox, over 27% likelihood they get the number 1 pick. Then it's followed by the Twins at over 22%. The Pirates, the Orioles, the A's. Once again, there are only 15 teams eligible for the number 1 pick. 3 teams ineligible because of details that Rick walked us through earlier in the show. It is about time to begin the 2025 MLB Draft Lottery, and this is a very interesting way to begin. A playoff team will begin at number 18. The 18th overall selection in the upcoming MLB Draft goes to the Cincinnati Reds. Let me explain why. It has to do with the New York Mets. Again, the Reds were a playoff team, and they were not in the lottery. The only way they could have the 18th pick were if the Mets were outside the top 6. That means, bad news, Mets fans, you will not have a top 6 lottery pick. The Mets will receive the 27th overall selection. So once again, the Reds have the 18th pick. Moving on to the 17th overall selection, the upcoming MLB Draft. That pick goes to the Houston Astros. The Houston Astros have the 17th pick. They had a less than 1% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. They stayed in the 17th spot. They remained there. That was their slot before the draft started. This is the earliest draft pick for the Stros since they drafted 17th overall in 2017. The Houston Astros with the 17th overall pick. Moving on to the 16th overall selection in the upcoming MLB Draft, and that goes to the Texas Rangers. The Rangers get this pick. They had a little bit over of a 1% chance of getting the number 1 overall selection. They went from the 14 slot down 2 to number 16. This is the 6th time in the last 7 drafts that the Rangers have had a top 16 pick. Some of those picks include Wyatt Langford, Kumar Rocker, and Jack Leiter. The Rangers at number 16. On to number 15, and the 15th spot in the upcoming MLB Draft goes to the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks, with this pick, they had a bit of over 1.5% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. They went from the 13th slot down 2 to the 15th slot. This is the 4th time in the last 6 drafts that the Diamondbacks will have a top 15 pick. They use those picks in the likes of Tommy Troy, Drew Jones, and Jordan Lawler. The Diamondbacks at number 15. We move on to number 14 in the upcoming MLB Draft. The 14th spot goes to the Miami Marlins. The Fish have this spot. The Marlins had a 1.85% chance of getting the number 1 pick. They went from the 9th spot down 5 to the 14th pick. This is the 2nd time the Marlins have had a 14th pick in a draft. They drafted Jose Fernandez with the 14th overall selection in the 2011 MLB Draft. So the Marlins at number 14. At number 13, 13th overall selection in the upcoming MLB Draft goes to the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals get this spot. They had over a 2% chance of getting the number 1 pick. They went from the 8th slot down to the 13th pick. This is the 3rd straight year the Cardinals have had a top 13 pick in the draft. They drafted Liam Doyle with the 5th overall selection last year and J.J. Weatherholt with the 7th pick in 2024. So the Cardinals at number 13. In front of them at number 12, the Los Angeles Angels. The Angels land this spot. They were ineligible for a lottery pick. They're a payor club, which means they would give revenue sharing dollars. Therefore, this is the 8th straight season the Angels have had a top 15 pick. This is the 4th time the Angels have had the 12th overall pick. The last time they had it was in 2004 when they landed Jared Weaver, the longtime right-hander. So it's the Angels at 12. In front of them, at number 11 in the upcoming MLB Draft, it is the Washington Nationals. The Nationals have this spot, ineligible for a lottery pick because of all the details I just showed you before with the Angels. This is the 4th time the Nationals have had the 11th overall pick. They had it in 2021 when they drafted Brady House. So the Nationals are at number 11. We're getting to the top 10 in the upcoming MLB Draft. And at number 10, we find the Colorado Rockies. The Rockies land this pick. The Rockies, once again, ineligible for a lottery pick. This is the 7th straight draft the Rockies are picking in the top 10. This is the 4th time the Rockies have had the 10th pick in the draft. They drafted Ian Stewart in 2003, David Dahl in 2012, and Gabriel Hughes in 2022. So it's the Rockies at number 10. We move on inside the top 10. At number 9 for the upcoming MLB draft, that spot goes to the Atlanta Braves. The Braves at number 9. The Atlanta Braves had a 4.54% chance of getting the number 1 overall selection. They went from the 6th slot to the 9th pick. This is the first time the Braves have had a top 9 pick since 2019 when they took Shea Langoliers with the 9th overall selection in the draft. So the Atlanta Braves are at number 9. We move on to number 8 in the upcoming MLB draft. That spot goes to the Athletics. The A's get this pick inside the top 10. They had a 6.5% chance of getting the number 1 pick. They went from the fifth slot down to the 8th pick. It's the 3rd time in the last 4 drafts the A's have had a top 8 pick. They drafted Jacob Wilson 6th overall in 2023, and Nick Kurtz, who ended up being a superstar rookie, 4th overall in 2024. All right, we're going to give you one more before we go to break. The 7th overall pick in the upcoming MLB draft goes to the Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles land the number 7 overall pick. They had over a 9% chance of getting the number 1 overall selection. They went from the 4th slot to the 7th pick. This is the first time the O's have drafted in the top 7 since 2022, and they took Jackson Holliday with the number 1 overall pick. The last time they had the 7th pick was in 2003 when they took Nick Markakis. That was a day ago. Okay, so here we have 18 through 7. The remaining teams still in play for the number 1 overall selection in the upcoming MLB draft: the White Sox, the Twins, the Pirates, the Rays, the Giants, and the Kansas City Royals. Who is going to get that number 1 selection? Stay tuned. We're back right after this, live on MLB Network. Once again, we have 6 spots remaining. Take a look at the teams that are in play for the number 1 overall pick in the upcoming MLB draft: the White Sox, the Twins, the Pirates, the Rays, the Giants, and the Royals. Back here live on MLB Network, the Rays rep, Brett Phillips, said that if the Rays get the number 1 pick, he's going to do the airplane. Is that right? You're going to do the airplane again? I cannot wait to see that. We'll find out. It is time to get back to the MLB Draft Lottery and get back to it at number 6. The 6th overall selection in the upcoming MLB draft goes to the Kansas City Royals. The Royals land the 6th pick. They had less than a 1% chance of getting the number 1 overall selection. They went from the 16th slot to the 6th overall pick. That is an amazing jump. So a great night for the Kansas City Royals. Moving on, we're to the top 5, folks. The 5th overall selection in the upcoming MLB draft, it goes to the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Pirates land the number 5 pick. They had a 16.8% chance of getting that top spot. They went from the 3rd slot to the 5th pick in the draft. This is the first time the Pirates have had a top 5 pick in the draft since 2023 when they took a guy named Paul Skeens. The Pirates at number 5. On to number 4. The team with the 4th overall selection, the upcoming MLB draft, the San Francisco Giants. We just talked to their president of baseball operations, Buster Posey. He has to be happy with this news. They had a 1% chance of getting the top pick. They went from the 15th slot to the 4th overall pick. It's the 5th time they've had a top 4 pick in the draft. The last time they had it was in 2018. They took Joey Bart 2nd overall. So the Giants at number 4. We move on to the number 3 overall selection, the upcoming MLB draft. That spot goes to the Minnesota Twins. The Twins are at number 3. Johan, looks like you did your job. This is a team that had a 22% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. They went from the 2nd slot to the 3rd pick, so I'm sure they were really wanting that number 1 spot. But here the Twins are at number 3, which means there are only 2 teams left. And I know, Brett, We might be seeing some theatrics right now. It's the Rays and the White Sox. The White Sox or the Rays. Which one will be the number 1 overall pick? It's time to start at number 2. The team with the 2nd overall pick in the upcoming MLB Draft, the Tampa Bay Rays. Which means the number 1 pick in the upcoming MLB Draft goes to the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox will land the top pick. The board has been filled at number 18. It started with the Reds. It worked our way up to number 12 with the Angels. And at number 1, you see the Chicago White Sox. Their GM, Chris Getz, will chat with me live when we come back on MLB Network.
The MLB Draft Lottery is presented by Nike.
A big, big night if you're a fan of the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox will be picking at number 1. They won the MLB Draft Lottery. Last time they picked at number 1, their representative Harold Baines was the top pick. The Hall of Famer was here tonight. So is their GM, Chris Getz. Chris, congratulations. This is a massive deal for your organization.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to just kind of boost what we have going on right now. I mean, it's an honor. I mean, it's a huge responsibility. And, you know, our group, I mean, I'm just so happy for everyone, quite honestly. And, you know, going into this whole thing, you know, you kind of prepared for all different scenarios emotionally. But, man, I can't understate how big of a deal this is.
Explain a bit more on it to our audience, what freedom you have to pick have the number 1 pick in this draft.
Well, I mean, I'm still learning more and more about the draft. I'm getting familiar with some of the top names. And, you know, it looks like at the top of the draft that it's a really impressive one. But on top of that, when you look at the pool space that you're given and a chance to really, you know, walk away from a draft class and do some damage, you know, bring in some real talent. So, yeah, I look forward to diving in further, man. And yeah, I'm just excited for our fan base and the people that are working for the Chicago White Sox.
And adding to an already young core that is so impressive. I mean, Colson Montgomery, among others. You're starting to see the pieces in the south side of Chicago.
No, I mean, you know, last year as those players were making their way to the big leagues and performing really well, and we know that's not an easy thing to do. And you begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And to bring in now a top pick, you know, to this group, I mean, it's just a big deal. It really is.
Brilliant move having a number 1 overall pick as your club rep, Harold Baines. That was a brilliant move by you. The mojo was working for you. You got the pick. Well done, bud.
Yeah, we did the math. Yeah.
Chris Getz, the GM of the White Sox. Thank you so much for watching the MLB Draft Lottery. There was suspense at the end. We thought we were going to see Brett Phillips do the airplane. Instead, the number 1 pick goes to the White Sox.